Fighters from Russia's mercenary Wagner Group have ballooned from 1,000 to nearly 20,000 in Ukraine, British government officials say, a sign of Russia's growing reliance on the military contractor in support of its invasion. Russia is widely believed to be struggling to recruit soldiers and maintain morale. The West estimates Russia has lost tens of thousands of soldiers, and President Vladimir Putin launched a recruitment drive in September to boost numbers. Meanwhile, Russia has suffered a series of setbacks on the battlefield, and UK officials believe Russia is turning to the Wagner Group as a consequence. The private military company is now actively promoting its role in the war. But, so far, Wagner's bark seems to be proving worse than its bite. The BBC has been briefed by UK officials who've been tracking the activities of the Wagner Group. They say the group is now playing a much higher profile role in the war in Ukraine. But officials add that Wagner has also traded quality for quantity, and is now facing the same challenges and losses on the battlefield as the wider Russian military. Wagner's influence and presence has only got stronger, as Russia's invasion plans have stuttered, stalled, and suffered setbacks. In March 2022, Wagner was thought to have sent an initial force of just over 1,000. Wagner's inflated ranks are linked to its targeted recruitment of convicts in Russian prisons. In return, they have been told they'll get paid and have their sentences commuted after serving 6 months on the front line. Whilst Wagner claims to pay compensation to the families of those killed in action, there are reports some receive nothing. UK officials say there's been a pivot from quality to quantity. Wagner's group field commander, Lieutenant Col Dmitry Utkin, was an officer in the GRU Spetsnaz. But UK officials say that Wagner is now far from an elite force. In recent months, Wagner has taken a high-profile role in the brutal assault of Bakhmut in Ukraine's eastern Donbass region. A recent UK Defence Intelligence assessment highlighted Wagner's tactics. The UK intelligence assessment said those who deviated were likely threatened with summary execution. UK officials say needless and indiscriminate violence is a hallmark of the group. Wagner recently released a video of one of its members bludgeoning an alleged deserter to death. In July, Wagner launched its own channel on the social media platform Telegram. UK officials say there's recently been a notable increase in information operations by Wagner in Ukraine. Its leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, once threatened journalists with defamation for linking him to the group. Prigozhin finances his group and his own ambitions with a lucrative $1 billion contract to provide catering for the Russian state. He's also believed to be making more money from Wagner's mercenary activities in Africa in exchange for rights to extract rare minerals. Wagner mercenaries in the Central African Republic and Mali have been accused of serious human rights abuses. It is Wagner's activities in Ukraine that have lifted any veil of secrecy surrounding the organization. UK officials believe Prigozhin wants Ukraine to be his glossy brochure for the group's success. A vehicle to promote his own ambitions as part of Putin's inner circle and savior of the motherland. Some of its troops may be better paid and better equipped than the average Russian soldier. But many are not. UK officials say Wagner personnel are also likely facing grueling conditions and material shortages in Ukraine. There is still a blurred line between Wagner and the Russian military. UK officials say it is likely that elements within Russia's defense ministry remain skeptical of the group. Senior Kremlin officials, including President Putin, have not acknowledged its ties to the Russian state. But UK officials say it is almost certain that Wagner deployed to Ukraine with the sanction of senior officials and that the mercenaries are now working in operational lockstep with the Russian military. Wagner's primary training area is within a Russian defense facility at Mokhin, 300 kilometers east of Crimea. So far, there's little evidence that Russia's proxy army Wagner is any better than its own regular armed forces.
Ambulance strike. Warning of very challenging days ahead. Hospitals were quieter than normal during Wednesday's ambulance strikes. But Thursday is likely to be very challenging with lots of patients turning up, health bosses say. Only the most serious 999 calls were responded to. But there was no evidence of people going to A&E in taxis or their own cars, NHS providers told the BBC. Thousands of paramedics, call handlers and technicians took action in England and Wales on Wednesday. Saffron Cordery, interim chief executive of NHS providers, which represents hospital trusts, mental health trusts and ambulance services in England, said it was still too early to know the full impact of the strike. And she said she had heard talk of union members coming off the picket line to answer those calls. But she warned of a rebound effect over the coming days as large numbers of people turn to the health service, pushing up demand to levels similar to the day after a bank holiday. Thursday and Friday were going to be incredibly difficult days across the NHS because there is a lot of unseen demand and risk out there, she said. She said people changed their behavior on Wednesday, heeding the call not to use services. But some will have chosen not to use them at all, even though they need them, she added. Andrew Morgan, chief executive of United Lincolnshire Hospitals, said there had probably been more walk-ins on Wednesday. This can create more of an issue because staff do not know people are coming in or what is wrong with them, he said. Unions had agreed that ambulance workers would respond to Category 1 999 calls and the most serious Category 2 calls during strikes. But there would be no guarantee of a response to less urgent calls, such as falls. The unions have negotiated critical cover, including 999 calls, at a local level with hosts of NHS trusts. That is how it is done, she said. People were also being urged to use their own transport or take a taxi to get to hospital. But Ms. Cordery said that, as far as we can tell, people had not been attending A&E in taxis or by their own vehicles. Patients who are seriously ill or injured, or whose lives are in danger, are being advised by the NHS to call 999. The strikes come at a time when the health service is already under immense pressure. Lengthy ambulance response times, long delays to hand over patients at A&E departments, and patients not being discharged quickly enough from hospital when they are ready to go home are creating a flow problem, experts say. The target is 18 minutes. Ambulance workers in England and Wales are demanding a pay rise above inflation, which they say will improve morale and help prevent staff, faced with rising pressures, from leaving their jobs. Government ministers, though, say most ambulance staff have received a pay rise of at least 4%, taking average earnings to £47,000. A further pay increase would mean taking money from frontline services, they added. More strikes loom. But unions say that unless the government agrees to meaningful pay talks, industrial action could escalate in the new year. Ambulance staff from the GMB union are already set to walk out in England and Wales again next week, on December 28. In Scotland, Unison and Unite previously called off ambulance strike action following pay talks. Northern Ireland's ambulance service held a 24-hour strike on December 12.
U.S. winter storm to bring coldest Christmas in decades. A major winter storm sweeping the U.S. this week may bring the coldest Christmas in 4 decades to parts of the country, say forecasters. The once-in-a-generation cold snap, which began in the Pacific Northwest on Tuesday, before churning east, will become a bomb cyclone by Friday. More than 90 million people are under winter weather alerts across 37 states. About 80% of the nation is set to experience sub-zero temperatures, including places as far south as Texas. Named Winter Storm Elliott by the Weather Channel, the Arctic blast is expected to deliver the coldest Christmas to the Midwest since the late 1980s, according to forecasts cited by U.S. media. Even Florida, the Sunshine State, is projected to see its coldest Christmas in 30 years. The National Weather Service said bone-chilling temperatures of -50 F and -70 F were possible by the end of this week in some parts of the country. The NWS has called it a once-in-a-generation winter weather event, especially as the storm reaches the Great Lakes region, where its pressure is expected to reach the equivalent of a Category 3 hurricane. The governors of Kentucky and North Carolina have declared states of emergency. Snowy conditions and freezing roadways are expected to wreak travel chaos this weekend. "We had a great Thanksgiving week with minimal disruption," U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg told cable channel MSNBC on Wednesday. "Unfortunately, it's not going to be that way going into Christmas. Hundreds of flights from Denver and Chicago have already been canceled." Denver is forecast to face the brunt of the cold snap on Thursday morning as temperatures plummet to -16 F. The Denver Coliseum, an indoor arena, is being converted into a warming center. Chicago has been warned to prepare for heavy snowfall starting on Thursday, whipped around by gusts topping 50 miles per hour. As the storm develops, meteorologists anticipate it will turn into a bomb cyclone. Bomb cyclone is a term given to a storm that intensifies rapidly, with its central air pressure dropping to at least 24 millibars in 24 hours. They are referred to as bomb cyclones due to the explosive power caused by the rapid fall in pressure. Such storms bring weather ranging from blizzards to severe thunderstorms to heavy precipitation. Bomb cyclones are most common on the east coast of the U.S. and Canada, where the cool land and warm Gulf Stream current provide optimal conditions.